My two siblings and I were brought up in a charming tiny village where we were raised. I am the middle child of my family. There is a potential for both strengths and weaknesses in the fact that everyone there is familiar with one another. In spite of the fact that he puts in a lot of effort, my father is the kind of man who does not show his feelings to others. The idea of retiring is currently on his mind. My mother is the complete antithesis of she has always been responsible for the upkeep of the house and has always adhered to the traditional values that she was taught while she was growing up. The families that my parents come from are both quite traditional and devout. Although they are my parents and I love them, I have always had the feeling that I did not live up to the expectations that they had for me. The fact that they seem to consider me as the disappointment of the family is a painful reality. My older brother, on the other hand, is considered the family's golden boy. He finally settled down and married a reserved woman when he was 40 years old. Sports, and more specifically rough and tumble sports, are something that their two sons are quite enthusiastic about. To put it mildly, people like them are a chore. It seems as though my brother considers it his responsibility to direct me through life. At a dealership in the neighborhood, he is employed as a vehicle salesperson. His mentorship, on the other hand, seems to be more of him treating me like a project that he is unable to manage, as if I am always in need of assistance and ought to be grateful for any time that he spends with me. His counsel frequently comes off as boasting about his large house, fine cars, and his so-called trophy wife, despite the fact that he paints an image of a happy existence by talking about his athletic children, his powerboat, and his all-terrain vehicles, ATVs. Because of this, I feel even more isolated than I already did. At school, I was the sensitive child who constantly broke down in tears and seemed to always find an excuse for why things didn't go as planned. I was the child who was always looking for an explanation. As a child, I was not a strong, rugged, or athletic individual. The alternative was that I was made fun of and excluded from the majority of the events. If I had asthma, I would feel even more isolated from the world. What could possibly be the worst thing? According to my parents, asthma is not a severe medical concern that has to be addressed. To add insult to injury, I have been struggling with depression for as long as I can remember. Never was I the type of child who could run down a field or throw a football straight. I was never the kind of child. My parents constantly made comparisons between my older brother and me, pointing out that I was not as intellectual or sociable as my brother. They also made comments about how I was not as gregarious. The school setting was difficult. When I graduated from high school, I had a dismal grade point average of 2.5. I registered for college when I had accumulated some funds, but I dropped out of school during my second year. Having made such a decision led to a disagreement among the family. I could say that my younger sister was the princess of the family in a certain sense. My departure occurred while she was a teenager, therefore I do not have a lot of information about her. The fact that I have witnessed her in her mature form is the primary reason why I have these feelings about her. Despite the fact that she is not a terrible person and is only a little bit overindulged, she frequently treats me in the same manner as my parents and brother do. Perhaps this is because it is easier for her to do so than it is for her to be the target herself. She was married at the age of 19, is now a mother of 3 children, and had a stunning wedding ceremony. It is her middle child that I most closely identify with. Due to the fact that she is also the middle child, I cannot help but see a little bit of myself in her. There is a lot of ridicule directed on her, and perhaps it is because her issues are comparable to mine that I feel like I know her better. I finally started to accept and appreciate the timid and nerdy side of myself when I graduated from college. I had the opportunity to work at a comic book and video game store in my community for more than 7 years before it closed down. I found that I really enjoyed my time there. My mother and father continue to act as if I am still employed there, despite the fact that I have moved on. One of the most enjoyable aspects of my job at the store was getting to know another one of those geeks who had enormous aspirations. Together, we established a prosperous information technology support company. It was ultimately my business partner who came to the conclusion that our company should be sold to a larger group of corporations. During the course of the transaction, I was bought out with cash and stock options, and it turned out to be a very successful outcome. I began a few side projects and made a number of intelligent investments, several of which were fairly profitable. I also launched a few other projects. I make an effort not to boast, but when it comes to assets, I have more than $1 million. I am currently serving as the Chief Technology Officer for a fresh new private firm. Even though I am wealthy, I try to keep a low profile in my life. All of the furniture in my cozy 2-bedroom home in a wonderful neighborhood is used, and I drive a Saturn that is 15 years old. Personally, I am not in a relationship at the moment. My life is very busy, and I make it a point to visit my therapist on a consistent basis. As is the case with my asthma and sadness, I also struggle with drinking, which is made more challenging by the fact that my parents do not take it seriously. They are of the opinion that it is entirely mental. Despite the ups and downs that have occurred during my work, I have been able to build out a lucrative profession for myself. This is true even if it is not what most people anticipate or perceive. Every Sunday evening, my parents anticipate that I will be present for supper with them. Due to the fact that they reside on the opposite side of the state, the journey is not a quick one. I spend more than half of my weekend traveling because it takes me between 90 and 120 minutes each way. It appears that they continue to believe that I have nothing better to do because I am a single person who is not married and because I have what my brother likes to call a mental illness. Frequently, these meals are challenging to prepare. For a period of 3 hours, I am given unsolicited advice on how to get married, start a family, and behave like a responsible adult. On the other hand, I am forced to endure a lengthy chat about my brother's most recent massive sale at the auto dealership, which is the topic of conversation at the table. In spite of the fact that they have never directly referred to me as a mooch, the inference is there if I opt out of attending any of these dinners. It is disheartening and confusing all at the same time. During my sessions with my therapist, I frequently find myself wondering why I continue to attend these gatherings. All of my achievements are frequently minimized or misrepresented by my family, which is a common occurrence. Relatives in my hometown continue to believe that I am employed at the long-gone game store. Because of his excellent career, my brother was seen to be more mature and outgoing than I was. He also had a great career. The consequence of this was that I was constantly made fun of for my previous experience working in retail. Because of this gap, it was difficult for me to convey to my family back in my hometown the reality about my life and the accomplishments I have accomplished. There were periods when people considered video games and comics to be childish forms of entertainment. My attempts to talk technology were often eclipsed, despite the fact that I have true experience in the technical field. I was interrupted by my brother, who would act as if I was ignorant of everything that was going on. In most cases, I simply listened to him, despite the fact that I was aware that he was babbling. When I had to correct him, I was terrified because I would have to defend my knowledge and explain the work that I had done. I had a deep-seated fear that they would not value my career and that it would cause them to have a different mentality about me. I will freely admit that I have experienced challenges and that I have occasionally been a complete disaster. However, everything was different the previous month. Some of my personal information was able to be obtained by my brother, who was successful in doing so. A private investigator was hired by him to carry out what he claimed was a background check on my employment, but the truth is that he hired a private investigator. Despite my best efforts, I couldn't shake the nagging feeling that he was plotting an intervention with my parents. Without a doubt, they were completely unprepared for what they found out. They discovered that I did not reside in a run-down flat, as well as other sensitive facts, and that my genuine value as a person was revealed to them. The fact that I work in security made this an extremely ironic situation. Having made the links, I was even able to determine the origin of the attack by obtaining notices about unauthorized attempts to obtain my credit report. This led me to determine the source of the hack. As a result of this revelation, everything became crystal obvious, and I am now forced to deal with a sudden and unexpected shift in how my family perceives me. Given the history of miscommunication and undervaluation that has occurred in our relationship, it is a lot to take in, especially considering the circumstances. Because I was so furious over the invasion of my privacy, I decided to use the services of the same private detective business to investigate the finances of my brother. In point of fact, my brother was living a life that was quite extravagant. During the course of the inquiry, it was revealed that there was a file with Child Protective Services, that there were multiple previous arrests for driving while intoxicated and public intoxication, and that there were home disturbance calls. It was difficult for him to make his scheduled back payments to the Internal Revenue Service, IRS, and to manage the 3 mortgage loans that he had on his house. He had a credit score that was in a complete and utter mess, despite the fact that there were no continuing charges at the moment. On the other hand, My parents led lifestyles that were not particularly extravagant and had very little more than what I already knew. Regarding the matter of money, they exhibited a practical and pragmatic approach. During the next meal, I was so focused on getting ready to confront my family in the hopes that it would make a rift that I didn't even care to check on how my sister was doing. I was hoping that it would cause a difference. On the other hand, the ambience of the evening was quite dissimilar to what I had envisioned occurring. It seemed as though my parents were treating me with a peculiar kind of reverence, as if I were the most precious child in the world. Clearly, this transition caused my brother a great deal of distress. Somewhere in the middle of the meal, he lost his temper. As part of his efforts to reconstruct his reputation, he started bragging about recent sales commissions and a promotion that he claimed to have received. Simply put, I sent my congrats to him and made a diplomatic reference to his debt, troubles with the Internal Revenue Service, and stretched credit position. To put it another way, I brought attention to the financial crisis that my brother was experiencing while simultaneously applauding his previous achievements. All of it was a peculiarly sad experience. My parents' sudden change in conduct toward me, which appeared to be forced and artificial, made the already hard family dynamic much more awkward. This was a situation that had always been challenging. When I first gave my brother a copy of the report, he immediately challenged everything that was written in it. On the other hand, I brought to his attention the fact that he had unwittingly recommended it by going via the agency to investigate me. It's true that for a short period of time, that was a pleasant experience. It is clear that my parents were aware of it as well, since they admonished him and responded with a dramatic shock. Due to the fact that the report required my social security number, the entire situation got very uneasy. It was not a pleasant realization, nor was the argument that followed it. In light of the fact that it exposed the greed and cowardice of my family, my contempt for them increased. During the course of the ensuing hour, they began accusing one another of a variety of offenses during the course of the conversation. I did everything in my power to maintain my silence, but there were occasions when they were angry with me. Whenever something like that occurred, I would either shrug my shoulders or answer with a flippant, one-word comment. In a state of disbelief, my brother's wife, my sister's husband, and their 5 children watched as our family crumbled in a manner that had never been seen before. Typically, our gatherings consisted of mundane and dull activities. My sister would provide updates whenever she had the opportunity to do so, my brother and his wife would brag about their life, my mother would strike up a conversation, and my father would moan in response. It had never happened before that this catastrophe took place during one of our family dinners. It was, to put it mildly, a supper that was full of upheaval. The normal subtle digs about how I should look up to my brother and be a genuine guy were replaced with stunned silence as long-simmering, deeply ingrained issues blasted into the open. This occurred as we were confronted with the revelation of these difficulties. There was a furious argument that took place between me, my brother, and my father. In order to determine who was guilty for everything, they dredged up every remnant of family friction that had occurred over the course of the previous 30 years. It was like seeing a chaotic drama unfold in real time. It was very impressive. During these kinds of situations, it looked as though all of my negative opinions about my family were finally validated. If I'm being completely honest, I felt terrible, despite the fact that you might have anticipated that I would experience some kind of success or justice. It dawned on me that I had handled the problem in an ineffective manner. Even though I was well aware of these shortcomings, what was it that I had intended to achieve by bringing my brother's wrongdoings to the attention of the public? However, his children are now aware of his troubled past, which is something that I had hoped they would not know. During a fit of rage, my brother yelled at me. And that was the moment when the situation reached its breaking point. Although his harsh words, such as, "You should have never been born," were shocking, what truly stood out was the desperation with which my parents attempted to calm him down. This was a level of desperation that I had never seen before. My accusation was that I was the root of all the issues that the family was experiencing. Although they made an effort to intercede, they never truly admitted or accepted responsibility for the manner in which they had treated me over the course of the years. My feelings were a mixture of sadness and vindication. Consequently, it acted as a jarring and glaring reminder of the fundamental issues that are present in the dynamics of our family. To the point where I could no longer handle it, my parents continued to accuse me of something else. By alleging that I was refusing to assist a sick niece or nephew, they insinuated that I had the ability to assist but chose not to do so. Prior to this, I was completely unaware of such a situation. I had never been informed about this problem, nor had anyone ever reached out to me for assistance. Although I had a sneaking suspicion that they were making things up as they went along, I did not contest their claims. Although I had the impression that you believed I was still employed at the comic book shop, I really reminded them of this fact. Despite the fact that I had reminded them on multiple occasions, they never seemed to comprehend that the store had terminated its operations in 2011. I was outraged by the manner in which they had fabricated evidence of our family history in order to fit their narrative. Following a feeling of being overloaded and angry, I drove home. My emotions are all over the place right now. The fact that they are aware of my financial situation makes me feel as though I have been tricked because I am aware that they will most likely put pressure on me to reimburse them. My brother was treated in a manner that is comparable to what I have seen them do to me, so I am aware of what is about to happen. On the other hand, I acknowledge and appreciate the fact that my parents met all of my fundamental requirements when I was a youngster, including providing me with clothing, food, and a place to live. It is going to be challenging to find your way through this maze of gratitude, resentment, and newly established limits. For me to be able to process this shift in dynamics, I will most likely require the support of my therapist. It should come as no surprise that defining clear boundaries going ahead will be of utmost importance. Growing up was difficult for me because, to tell you the truth, I was never the child that my family selected as their favorite. The fact that my parents never physically abused me did not prevent my brother from mistreating me, but they did not take any action to stop him. Whether he kicked, hit, or screamed incredibly nasty things, my parents reacted as if there was nothing wrong with the situation. They paid nobody any attention to it at all. The fact that they do not perceive verbal abuse to be harmful or genuine is a very disturbing fact. Far if verbal abuse is a bad thing in and of itself, it is far more awful when the people who are supposed to protect you choose to ignore it. Having to put up with this for so many years is enough for me. It is imperative that I maintain a constant distance from them, despite the fact that I am aware that they are members of my family. Even while I hope that everything works out for them, I believe that it will be more beneficial for me to go on and start a new chapter without them. What will take place if I find someone who is truly remarkable, such as a girlfriend, and we make the decision to get married and start a family together? After that, what strategies will I employ to address these issues with my family? It has the potential to become quite complicated, therefore I am making an effort to figure it out. What is the best way for me to introduce my new family to my family if I decide to stop communicating with them? Regarding the things that are to come, I have a lot of questions. Before you go ahead and read the latest update, I would want to offer you some guidance. In the event that your family only desired to have you around in order to increase their self-esteem, then they did not value you as a person. They want you to be around so that they can take advantage of your wealth now that they are aware of your accomplishments in the marketplace. There is no way that your family can define you. Given all you've said, it appears that the problem lies with them rather than with you. Due to the conditions of your family, you give off the impression of being a conscientious and kind-hearted individual who has been subjected to harsh punishment. Keep your phone out of sight and move on with the rest of your life. In terms of building your own life, you have done an excellent job. Take as much time away from your family as you want to reduce the amount of time you spend with them. All they want is your money, and you are aware of this fact. Therefore, you are free to contact with them in any manner that you deem appropriate. Maintain communication with your therapist so that they can assist you in transitioning into a life in which they do not restrict you. It is best to avoid conversations that are meaningless. If it is at all possible, you should give some thought to moving to a new location, packing up your belongings, and beginning a new life. If you find yourself in a situation where you have to make difficult decisions, know that you are not alone. When it comes to dating, many people struggle with their families. It might be difficult to explain these dynamics to a possible partner, especially if they have strong links to their siblings or other family members. You, on the other hand, will begin your own family when the time is appropriate. Steps to do in order to move forward. Your credit accounts should be placed under a security freeze if you have not already done so. In the event that your brother gathered information about you through the use of dealership resources, you should inform the proper parties. In the event that his actions contained fraudulent activity, it is highly improbable that the dealership would be able to be linked. Discuss the matter with a lawyer. Even if you are young, accidents can still happen. Due to the fact that they are your default next of kin, your parents would currently inherit your assets. It is recommended that you put it in writing as soon as possible if you would prefer for another individual to be the beneficiary. Find a licensed counselor who you can trust. It is possible that you will have feelings of sadness due to the fact that you will be separated from your family in the following months. It will be easier for you to comprehend this information if you speak with an expert. As an update, after the disagreement that occurred at the family meal, it seemed like I was leaving a battle zone when I arrived home. My thoughts were the only thing that accompanied me as I flew on the peaceful road at night. As soon as I pulled into my driveway, I already knew that there was something that needed to be altered. It was imperative that I stop hosting dinners for my family if I did not wish to lose my mind. Over the course of the subsequent 2 weeks, I focused my attention on both my professional life and my spiritual health. Not only did the gadgets and comic books that were scattered throughout my house aesthetically appeal to the eye. Not only did the gadgets and comic books that were scattered throughout my house aesthetically appeal to the eye, but they also provided me with a safe haven. I decided to increase the number of therapy appointments I had during this time period in order to figure out how to split from my family without completely alienating our relationship. Dr. Bennett, who is my therapist, was very helpful all the time. In order to assist me in establishing boundaries, he utilized strategies that were more akin to constructing a fort than a wall. In the course of the weeks that passed as the temperature continued to rise, my thoughts began to shift toward the future, and more specifically, relationships. After spending some time by myself, who did not have a significant other, I started to believe that it was not only conceivable but also likely that I would meet someone truly remarkable. Ava appeared out of nowhere, like if she had been plucked from a comic book. The first time I met Ava was at a seminar on technology. Her presentation on cybersecurity caught my attention, not only because of the subject matter but also because of the charisma she exuded. She was intelligent and grounded, she understood me, and she had a love-centered perspective on families that was constrained by strong boundaries throughout her life. As Ava's circumstances became more dire, the unspoken challenge was figuring out how to expose her to the circus that my family owns. Over the course of a number of pizza-eating evenings, we spoke about how to handle the situation. We settled on the idea of holding family gatherings that were brief, open to the public, and unstructured. It was when Ava even offered to assist me that everything began to shift. From the beginning, our encounters consisted of simple coffee dates. While Ava was present, I made it a point to reintroduce myself to the family gatherings. It was only natural that the initial few occasions were extremely unsettling. My parents were overly courteous and cautious, as if they were afraid that I may disappear at any minute. On the other hand, it appeared as though my brother was making an effort to communicate a great deal but was having difficulty finding the appropriate words. Nevertheless, my sister and her children were a delightful distraction. Almost immediately, Ava won over the heart of my sister's middle child, who shared a lot of similarities with me. Due to the fact that these coffee dates were similar to quick excursions into familyland, we were accustomed to them. They were like a brief coming and departure. With the help of this tactic, I was able to get back in touch with people without getting completely caught in the pandemonium. It seemed out of nowhere that it began to operate. Over time, my family gradually became accustomed to the situation. It is possible that they acknowledged the fact that this was the sole means by which they could maintain my presence in their lives. My boundaries were brought to their attention by them. The longer-term perspective became more important to me as the situation improved. What do you think the future has in store for us? Together with Ava, I envisioned establishing a strong foundation for our family that was founded not on responsibility and guilt but on respect and concern for one another. Naturally, I was aware that there would be challenges to overcome. One summer evening, as Ava and I were strolling by the lake, we discussed the possibility of living together. We were both excited about the thought. From the point where I felt like my family had abandoned me to the point where I was ready to stand on my own with a better understanding of who I was impressed by how far I had come. It was as if day and night separated them. I feel a sense of optimism for the future that is tempered by caution. Even though I am aware that the road that lies ahead may be difficult and may contain potholes that are the size of craters, I am feeling prepared. In the aftermath of Ava, establishing boundaries with my family was about more than just serving as a means of self-defense. Making way for new friendships and a future that is rewarding for myself was the goal of my endeavor. Even if the famed Sunday lunches are still planned, they are now scheduled in accordance with my tastes. At other times, I don't go at all, but I do go on occasion. At family dinners, I bring Ava along, and we talk about any problems that may come up throughout the meal. In spite of the fact that there has been a significant amount of progress, there are still problems. Discovering that equilibrium, maintaining harmony without becoming overpowered, is the key to success. I would appreciate it if you could be patient with me as I remain in the process of learning how to post content online. I want to make sure that you are aware of all that is occurring in my life at the present time. Our first order of business is to present the primary characters. The story is being told by me. Our daughter is named Peach, our son is named Mario, and Daisy is going to be my ex-wife in the near future. At the moment, we are going through a difficult separation that is rapidly developing into a divorce that is extremely contentious. The primary reason that Daisy and I are going through with our divorce is because she came to terms with her bisexuality earlier this year. During our conversation, she made it clear that she wanted our marriage to be transparent to me. That was a concept that I did not feel at all comfortable with. As soon as I found out that Daisy had slept with my coworker, who is also one of my best friends, the situation became even more dire. It must have been an awful and embarrassing experience. The situation appeared to be a betrayal on the part of both my family and the organization where I work as a law enforcement officer. Following that, we were unable to maintain our united front. I decided to take a short hiatus in order to give matters some thought. Daisy did everything in her power to ensure that we remained unitary at the beginning. On the other hand, things took a negative turn when it became clear that I was adamant on not opening our marriage despite her reasons and entreaties. A shift had occurred in Daisy's point of view. She turned resentful, and the last thing I wanted was for her to begin playing pawns with our children. I was frustrated by her behavior. As Daisy began to explain to Peach that I no longer loved them, she began to persuade her that she was required to leave our home. She stated that I loathed them, and that I was destroying our family when I did so. Hearing it was extremely upsetting, especially when taking into consideration Peach's obvious state of bewilderment and despair. There are many times when our children go to Daisy's mother's house, which is where she currently resides. Daisy and her new companion make an effort to appear as though they are on a massive and exciting vacation throughout these encounters. It is likely that they are trying to play the role of the cool parents and turn Peach and Mario against me by lavishing them with food and toys during their time together. In addition to the mental struggle we are both experiencing, Daisy and I have a wide range of disagreements. In order to accomplish this, we need to choose who should inherit what goods and how much money one of us should contribute to support the other. The most difficult part. Choose how to divide the time that Mario and Peach have available. Each and every compromise that we attempt to negotiate is met with resistance from Daisy. It would appear that she is going to make things more challenging for herself. Daisy has been telling our children things that, in recent times, have made me appear to be the villain, which is not fair. As an illustration, Peach and Mario have been inquiring about whether or not I take a dislike to Daisy's new companion. Let's just name them AP for the sake of simplicity. For some reason, AP appears to adore them more than I do. Their minds are severely disrupted by the conversation in question. When I was at work a few weeks ago, I was working on a significant project. As I worked toward my goal of being promoted from police officer to homicide investigator, I was putting in a lot more hours over the course of time. We came to an agreement that Daisy would take care of the children during this hectic period of time and that they would visit me on the weekends. In the event that it was time for them to leave for Daisy's, I would make a visit. Mario exclaimed, his eyes welling up with tears. Are you removing us from our surroundings because, as your mother claims, you despise us? It was a large piece of luggage that I had packed for him, and I handed it to him. The situation was really distressing. Despite the fact that it was not quite the case, I gave him a bear hug and reassured him that I loved him deeply. It was strange to visit them over the weekend, despite the fact that I made every effort to do so. It presented a significant obstacle. The fact that they didn't say much to me gave me a lot of pain. In no way did it appear that they desired to meet with me. This is the first time that I have had the chance to speak with them again. It wasn't until today. As I lifted them both up, they both appeared to be in a very sorrowful mood. I was now able to converse with them as I was picking them up. It came as no surprise that Peach is experiencing some troubles. Despite the fact that she continues to express her affection for me, Daisy appears to be making it more difficult for her to do so. As a result of the complexity of the case, I am working to determine the most effective way to mitigate the potential harm that could be caused to the children. It can be very difficult to deal with the dynamics of the family when they are twisted in this way. Because she is under the impression that she is unable to love me, Peach is experiencing a great deal of difficulty. It is no longer acceptable for me to stand by and do nothing while my princess suffers. As a result of the fact that this divorce is intentionally causing them suffering, I am starting to have my concerns. Does it make sense for me to proceed with the divorce? Is it feasible to move forward while ensuring the safety of my children? Is it better for me to just remain and accept it? Let's move on to the comment. All of this information needs to be communicated to your divorce attorney as soon as possible. The term for this phenomenon is parental estrangement. There is no doubt that a judge will issue an injunction to prevent it, but it will most likely be difficult to carry out. You have to stop what you're doing and get started on this as soon as possible. Currently, Daisy is behaving in a manner that is really detrimental. It is imperative that you pursue the divorce and maintain all of the papers. Remaining in the relationship will only make the situation worse. This phenomenon is referred to as parental alienation, and it was a big factor in my friend's success in obtaining custody of his children because his ex-wife was behaving in a manner that was comparable to this. Daisy's acts should be documented, and you should hire a lawyer as quickly as possible. Seek the necessary medical attention for the youngsters. Currently, they are in a really precarious position. Your children should not be left alone with her without supervision. Please let your attorney know what she did. If necessary, inform Child Protective Services about how she treats the children. In the interest of your children, you should never again allow her activities to go unchecked.